Valheim. But what if you couldn't reset your spawn? In this video I begin the exhausting journey of finding out how important it really is to sleep in Valheim. An important note for this is during the challenge rules I am allowed to sleep, but only in the first base that I make, in that a bed laid is a bed played. So once I build a base and I set up a location, I will no longer be able to move that spawn, and from there on out if I die I will always spawn at that base location. I also am not allowed to use heavy armor sets. This includes any of the metal sets and then the Carpus armor later in the Mistlands. So that means I can use Trollhide, Root Armor, Fenris, and allow myself to use Leather Armor because the Meadows doesn't have a secondary armor set. The world rules for this are I'm playing with hardcore combat setting, no map, no portals, and then I turn raids to low and then death setting to normal because if I die away from my starter island, then I'm basically having to restart anyway. I also have the resource rate on 2x because I don't really care to farm twice as much. So let's begin. In no map, Valheim boss vestiges will orient your character in the direction of the nearest boss altar. So with that knowledge at hand, I took off towards where I thought Eikthyr was. In doing so, I was making sure to grab every stone, flint, wood, everything I could along the way, and I accidentally, during this time, got lost and came into the contact with the Black Forest, which normally wouldn't be a big deal, but I did attract the attention of a Grey Dwarf, and since it's on hardcore, they easily could kill me in one hit, so I had to run away and kite and make sure not to get hit by this Grey Dwarf, which is something kind of silly, because it is just a plant, but I eventually was able to lose track of it, and in doing so I got lost, so I had to run back to the starting stones again to recheck where Eikthyr was. Eventually I was able to find Eikthyr after going back and checking his location for the second time, so I decided that I wanted to build my starter base in this exact location, directly to the coastline near Eikthyr's spawn altar, because it was invisibility of a mountain, it had a black forest nearby, and it had Eikthyr spawn altar really close by as well, obviously. So I started to build my base, I made a flint spear, I got a bow, I crafted up everything I would need for the fight, including leather armor, which is something kind of strange. I don't normally craft armor for the first biome. But I got everything prepared, gathered my rested buff, cooked my boar meat, deer meat, and ate the best food I could, and then set into combat with Eikthyr. During this boss fight and all the subsequent boss fights, I've never actually fully completed the game. I've made it to the Mistlands solo, but never beat the Queen, and then I had a duo world with my friend where we made it to the Ashlands, and we started to fight Fader, but we died and couldn't actually beat the boss, and both of those were just on the normal settings. There was no alterations to the game, so this is a big step up to what I've ever played before. And as such, this boss fight, I took it a lot more serious than I probably would, even though he is just a 3-star deer effectively. But once I did kill him, I put his skull back at the starter stones, got my buff, and then took the antler pick back to my base and crafted my antler pick. I also, during this time, was chopping down trees and knocked down a fine wood tree with the logs from a normal tree just to get the fine wood bow as soon as I could. So I had the fine wood from this, and so when I journeyed into the Black Forest for the first time, my goal was just to get core wood. That was the only goal. So I ran into the Black Forest, explored a little bit, got my core wood, got out, and made the fine wood bolt. And I got the fine wood using the log roll method like I mentioned before. So now that I had the fine wood bow and I was able to upgrade it once, I officially was able to start making progress into the Black Forest. So my first goal in the Black Forest is to get the Circling Cores, because without these you can't do anything. And luckily on my first go into the Black Forest I did find a crypt, I just didn't enter it. So I decided to enter this crypt using my fine wood bow. I took care of all the skeletons, and I may or may not have cheesed it a little bit, just having them around the spawn entrance so they couldn't hit me. But I had to do what I had to do, because if these skeletons hit me at this point in the game with my leather armor, I would almost certainly get staggered and die. So I just took my time, I cleared out the dungeon as best I could, and I made it to my first loot room where I was able to get 6 Serpent cores. And seeing as I only needed 5 to craft my first kiln, I just left. I was going to come back later when I had a better set of gear. So I headed back to base, built my first kiln, and then I started to fill it up with wood to get as much coal stocked up as I could. Because at this time I was going to have to switch between kiln and furnace, and I couldn't have both at the same time with only having 5 Serpent cores. So I was just going to stock up on all of the coal I could while I was farming the ore and going in the Black Forest and exploring. So that was happening in the background this entire time as I go back in the Black Forest. On my second adventure into the Black Forest, I encountered a troll, and I actually took my first death. Now thankfully this is on my starting island, and this was near enough to my base where I wasn't lost, I knew where I was at, so I was able to go back, get my stuff, and kill the troll that killed me. And I decided to take revenge on it because it was outside of a troll cave and killed his brother as well. This turned out to be a terrible idea. I think I took probably 5 or 6 deaths in this troll cave, but I did eventually get my revenge, and as such I now had 20 troll hide to start making troll armor with, which is going to be my main armor set probably all the way up until deep into the swamp. So with that, I went back to my base, I kept smelting the coal, made the troll hide, and then went back into the Black Forest, and this is where I just spent the next 2 or 3 hours of my life farming copper, farming tin, and then continuing to smelt the coal, just getting a huge sum of all the resources I could need from the Black Forest. And weirdly enough, during this time, I never encountered a single blueberry bush. In my entire Black Forest, which ended up being quite small on my starter island, there wasn't a single blueberry bush, so I didn't unlock any of the new foods that come with the Black Forest, which is actually kind of important, and would mean I would later have to travel outside my starter island without proper food just to get the blueberries so I could eventually have the proper food. Also during this time, with my upgraded armor, I did go back into this crypt because the single smelter was too slow and starting to annoy me. So I cleared it out a little bit more, and I was able to get 10 more Surtling cores, which means I could get 2 more kilns or furnaces, and I also found the first Elder Vestige. So when you find a vestige in a dungeon, it will orient you where the boss is at, but since you're in a dungeon, you can't really tell where you're at in comparison to the world. So I used a little trick with your build menu. You can pick a piece and then orient that piece, and then the next time you pull that piece out, it will be oriented in that same way, so it kind of acts as a compass to where the boss is at. I found out later that this was not fully effective, so I didn't really want to find another vestige in a crypt, and I kind of wanted to find one above ground, because this was a little bit strange and ended up pointing me in the wrong direction to start. But after I found this vestige, I was making my way back, and I died to a troll again. So now this is my probably 8th death to a troll. So I do get one-shot by them still, even with troll hide on, and I just need to be more careful with them. I don't know why I can't dodge their attacks. I normally would be able to without a problem. It might just be the anxiety of being in hardcore that's getting me nervous and missing things that I should not miss. I also was able to get my first bit of copper and tin smelted and turn it into bronze, in which the first thing I wanted to make was a cultivator, because I wanted to get the carrot farm from the carrot seeds I'd gotten in the Black Forest started immediately, because I knew I would need a ton of carrots for the amount of food I would want. Because as I was making journeys away from my starter island, I'm going to need enough food to sustain me for the entire journey, so I would need an obscene amount of food just to even kill the Elder. And so, as such, I wanted to get the farm going as soon as I could. I also had leftover bronze after this, so I made a pickaxe and a mace just to expedite my process of getting more bronze so that I could hopefully defend myself in the crypts and also mine quicker. So I kept farming throughout this time and just kept making trips in the Black Forest, running in, getting copper tin, running out, keep smelting, keep the growing of the crops in the background. And with the next bit of copper and tin I got, I was able to make a bronze axe, and this allowed me to upgrade my fine wood bow, because now I could mine fine wood trees without having to knock trees into them, which is painfully slow. And so I was not only able to get the fine wood bow upgraded, I was also able to build a couple of the upgrades to the workstations, because they require fine wood. and I was also able to get the stuff to make a boat. And then with the leftover metal I had, I made a cauldron and a mead station for the increased food, and then I headed back into the Black Forest, now with my upgraded fine wood bow. I realized at this time that my current Black Forest didn't have enough for me, and I was gonna have to leave even without having better food, so I knew that across the pond there was a visible Black Forest attached to a mountain, so I just decided to make a really quick trip there and head into the Black Forest and just get blueberries, check if there's a vestige available, and leave. So this trip ended up taking me overnight, 2 nights, and the entire time I was almost shitting myself because I had terrible food and I didn't really know where I was at. But eventually I did get over 50 blueberries and I was able to head back to base safely after killing a really large fish that I'd never seen before and unfortunately not able to grab its resources. And then, now that I was back at base and I had blueberries, I was able to make the better food, and so then the next time I left, I would actually be confident in that I was as prepared as I ever could be. The final part of preparation for this is I also needed healing needs, because I wanted to make sure that if I did take damage, I get healed up, and that would be important, so I gathered a little more fine wood and had to run back into the Black Forest to get a little bit more copper so that I could make a fermenter. But I eventually made it, put it in the bottom of my base, and created the healing mead. So I just had to wait 2 days for that to ferment and for my crops to grow, and then I was ready to head out into the Black Forest looking for the Elder. So during this time, I took the time to kind of sort my chests, upgrade the base a little bit, and put more beehives out, and just get things ready to go so that when I went out, everything was in order, and I just kind of want to make the most of my time, because eventually I would have to go through and sort my chests anyway. And I will admit, they still look terrible, and it is not the smoothest system I've ever made, but it works, and things are in a place where I can find them again. So, also during this time, I got raided by a army of plants, and thankfully at this time I had a level 4 fine wood bow, so it didn't really do anything. I was able to just kite it around till the raid ended, and then just slowly chip away. I might have taken 1 hit, but it really was not problematic. And with the troll head at this point, I've killed enough trolls to where I was able to upgrade it, so even if I did get hit, these guys didn't do too much to me. Because in this game, the way the armor system works is it just is a 1-to-1. What your armor is how much damage is subtracted from the hit, up until, I think, if you have half of the armor of the damage, it'll become a multiplier, so then once you hit a threshold, it basically does nothing for you. So, after this, and after waiting the final day, I was able to harvest my carrots, get my mead done, and start making food in order for my journey to search for the Elder. And so I set off. I made my boat, I hopped on it, and I went in the direction that I thought it was based on the crypt that I found, and using the compass method I mentioned earlier, I set sail. One thing I want to mention during this is when you have no map and no portals, but mainly no map here, if you get fog and it's nighttime, you just have to wait. You can't do anything. It's so hard to see, you don't know where you're at, and you can't look around to scout. I could have gone past the Elder spawn altar and I would never have known. So it just is a huge waste of time, and I kind of wish they would have turned it off, but I get why it exists. So it took me 3 Black Forests and wandering around aimlessly, and then having to break my boat and replace it on the other side, to finally find a above ground vestige, which led me to a complete 180. It flipped my character around completely, which means I knew I was on the correct, I guess I'll call it Y coordinate, even though I'm not even sure where I'm at on the world. And so I just went directly in that direction to the X, trying to triangulate it with the first one I got from the crypt. So I headed that direction, and I actually found it. I'm kind of shocked. I've heard of people that have done the challenge before, where the Elder is actually one of the hardest bosses to find. And I found the Elder within probably an hour, hour and a half of searching, so I was ecstatic. So at this point, I set down my crafting bench, got my rested buff, repaired all my tools as best I could, and began the fight. For this fight, I started it just the same as I started Ike Thier, with campfires. And this one we're much better. I was able to get almost a quarter of his health just sitting there under the campfire. So this was a great start for the boss fight, and I was happy with it at the time, and this took a lot of the anxiety off. It's like, okay, maybe this will be okay, maybe this will work. And I kited him around the pillars because they're indestructible, so whenever he does this little vine attack, if you just hide behind it, you won't get hit. Although this didn't exactly work all the time, and I did get caught in the open once, and it almost killed me. I got staggered and hit by 3 vines, and then there was a great orb around, so I mean, this is the closest I came to death during this fight, and it was almost had me shaking. But I was able to take my healing potion, which thankfully I made, and thankfully I had high enough health foods where I survived it. And I eventually did kill the Elder, and got his swamp key and head. So now the fight was over, I decided to make it back to base. That's it. And I didn't exactly know where I was at this point. I had a vague idea, but I knew that if you look at the world tree, the spawn altar is always going to be directly under like the knuckle of the world tree. It's always in the same spot, or roughly. So I was like, okay, I just have to head back to that, and I'm pretty sure I'm off of one of the branches. So I start heading back, and I run into a plains, and I know plains don't spawn until way further out in the world, so I was like, uh-oh, what did I do? So I just did an immediately 180, noped out of there, and tried to go back to the knuckle of the world. And in doing so, I thought I came across my spawn island, and so I hopped off my boat and started running across the coastline, and again ran into a plains, except this time there's a Desquito waiting for me, and I died. I don't know where I'm at, I don't know how to get back to it, and I lost everything. I mean, I do have normal death settings on, so the stuff is still there, but I don't have a map to get back to it. So this isn't exactly a restart. I will be able to watch back the footage while editing this and hopefully find out where in the world I died and then go back to it quick. Hopefully avoid the Desquito, get my stuff, and get back to base. But this was a huge setback, so starting the next episode, instead of going to the swamp, I'm going to have to go back, find my body, bring it back to spawn altar, and reset in order for the swamp. And this was a humbling moment for this series, because I thought, oh, I'm invincible once I killed the Elder, everything's going well, this is going to be great, I just need to prepare. And I died. And kind of an embarrassing way, too. It was very avoidable to just not run into the plains. I don't really know what I was thinking. I was also playing this at 3 a.m. You know, not intentionally, as it's an Insomnia series, but that's what time it was, so I got lost and I died. And that's how this first episode ends. And thankfully I was able to make it all the way through the Black Forest, and the next time when I play I will be able to hopefully start playing into the swamp, and the real game of Valheim begins at that point, where everything from here on out will not be on my spawn island. And if I die, it'll be just as painful as this death.